Ghosts and ghouls, chumps and fools. Now, everyone enjoys a spooky story, right? A creepy tale for the season. They especially like them in the comment section. Share them.
Do it.
Now, today we aren't going to be talking about your average goosebumps.
He's funny.
You shut the fuck up! You shut the fuck up! You shut the fuck up!
No. Because today, we're going to be talking about Japanese yokai. We're going to discuss some of my personal favorite, and then some of the uniqueness it brings out in Japanese culture as well. And if this is something you enjoy and want more content like this, please consider subscribing and liking. But first, let's get into the spirit of things. Not bad. I wondered what would happen if I just... Well, now that we're suited for the season, let us discuss yokai. Because you see, yokai aren't your traditional ghosts. Heck, using ghosts and yokai is only really a half-truth. You see, it's kind of like saying paranormal when you mean ghosts. Yokai is more of an umbrella term. You still get your demons and ghosts, but you also get your supernatural events like sunsets and sunrises. Now you're probably wondering what I mean. Sunsets and sunrises aren't supernatural, but that's where you're wrong, because similar to the witching hour, the sunset, or umagatoki, represents the hour of which the supernatural powers are at play, and where you're able to encounter ghosts and spirits. Or other supernatural events like the Tengu Doshi, which is the translation of to be knocked down by a Tengu. AKA, you tripped and then you blamed a ghost.
Must have been the wind.
Now, another yokai event I find fascinating is one I have personally experienced. Kanashibari, which translate to be bound in metal. Essentially, you're paralyzed, trapped in your own body as you start to see and hear things. And this is usually caused by possession or some form of curse. Sounds terrifying. But here's the kicker. Those of you who speak Japanese know kanashibari as just Japanese for sleep paralysis. And due to that being the in-between state between asleep and awake, you see and hear things. So I'm not possessed, I'm just stressed.
Right.
But it's no wonder the kanashibari was a yokai back then. Matter of fact, as I joked with the Tengu Wind, most yokai events can be explained as superstition, explaining reality.
It's just a bunch of hocus pocus.
In the first yokai event I explained, the umagatoki, the time it occurred was twilight, the time where our eyes haven't adjusted to the shadows, allowing one's imagination to play them a fool. And that's one aspect of yokai I love. It explains the unexplainable, to help understand things that at the time we couldn't. But some of these things are unexplainables that could have been. Such is the case of the Kuchisake Onna. Now, the Kuchisake Onna is possibly one of the most popular yokai. You might even recognize her by her other name, the Slipmouth Woman. Now, the Slipmouth Woman is interesting because she has multiple adaptations, even modern adaptations. One of those things is involving a botched facial surgery. But whatever way the story starts, it usually ends with a woman who wanders the city streets with her face obscured, asking strangers if she's beautiful. If you answer correctly, she'll reveal her deformed face and ask, "How about now?" And if you still answer yes, she'll make you as deformed as her.
Wanna know how I got these scars?
Now this is the second best option, because if you answer no or try to run, she will cut you in half with her very large scissors. Now, here's my favorite thing about this yokai specifically, because there are two ways to get away unscathed entirely. One way
Chocolate.
is to throw old people candy at her.
Sorry about that.
Not kidding. That's how you take care of her. Or, another way to do it is you can also just call her average. So you have a very large woman with a very large scissors who the only way to defeat her is by either calling her mid or throwing butterscotch at her. Jokes aside, there's another aspect to yokai or ghosts in Japanese that I find interesting. And that is that most ghosts in Japan are female.
1, she's a female. 2, she's not a boy. And 3, and most importantly, she's a girl.
Now, what do I mean? Well, if you look at monsters here in the West, like Dracula, werewolves, or the Invisible Man, you might have noticed that they're all primarily male. Now, it is just a theory, one that I personally like, but it's believed that after World War II, a lot of movies that came out were kind of the old-timey monster movies of showing the monstrosities that man can do. This is by making them literal monsters. Werewolves and Swamp Thing and whatnot. Now I say this because a lot of ghosts in Japan are female, and yokai became popular during the Edo period, a time considered peaceful. Too peaceful. A theory I personally like is that the reason why yokai are primarily female is to kind of warn men of the temptations of falling for a woman. Think of the Yuki-onna, the Snow Woman, or the Kitsune, one of the stories of the Fox Woman. It can also stand as a warning to those who mistreat their spouses. One that comes to mind are the Onryo, a vengeful spirit, or the Fukakechi Onna, a two-mouthed woman usually created by greed or starving your spouse. Which is ironic, because according to the legend, the mouth also needed more food.
Please, sir. I want some more.
But yokai like the Fuchiona spark that wonder of the unknown. But if you thought a woman with a second mouth is wild, wait until you meet the god dog. Or, the best boy, my personal favorite, one of my personal favorites, the Inugami. Now, I love the Inugami for multiple reasons. This picture is one of them. I mean, come on. Look at the good boy with the hat. Little stick in the ritual circle. But I also like them because they're similar to a role of familiars in Western occult. And similar to familiars, to make an Inugami requires dark magic. And because of that, it's rightfully frowned upon. And also, yes, you can make gods or spirits. In the cases of the Inugami, it's a rather brutal process that I'll spare the details, but you end up with a mummified dog head that becomes your fetish. No, not that one, you pervert. Once you have your friend from beyond the end, you can essentially do anything. Change your fate, curse your enemies, but you have to be careful because there's a caveat. Mistreat your Inugami, and it will curse you. Or in other tales, straight up eat you. And that's kind of the dynamic I like about yokai. The beauty befalls danger. So, not one that I would call beautiful in a conventional manner, but is definitely fantastic, would be the Bakikura. The Bakikura is a whale, but a skeleton whale. It also flies. The legend starts in a whaling village, where on a rainy night, a fisherman and villagers in the Shiname Peninsula caught sight of a very large white shape in the ocean. Now, thinking it's just a white whale, they rushed to claim that bounty. But as they grew closer, they noticed strange birds and fish. And as they threw their harpoons, their eyes adjusted to the night. They noticed their harpoons missed. And not only that, but the creature they tried to slay rose out of the water into the sky. and as the Bakihara broke out into the sea, strange fish and birds in tow. Seeing the sight, the fishermen broke out in a panic, making their way back to their village, not knowing of the curse that followed them, or the curse that would infect their village. Chilling story. Okay, I'm gonna take off this helmet. It is like terrible. Now, the Bakihara is a strange creature culturally speaking, considering back then whales were revered as gods or kami. Hell, even in the West, their tails splashing is called a god's thumb. Now, back on track. The reason why Japanese wanted to find whales was because the wealth villages would receive just by harvesting the resources such as fat, the meat, and the blubber. And with them being so revered and sought after, whale cults began to grow. Now, these cults would pray to whales for more whales. The floor is made of floor. And after these whales got caught and farmed, many Japanese would bury the bones and often build shrines on top of the graves simply out of respect. And honestly, it seems like a cool place to visit. Maybe one day. Not in this. Now, moving along, here's an absolutely terrifying yokai, mainly because of just how it fucks with you. And that yokai is the Nopurabo. Nopurabu? Nopurabu. Now this guy, as you can see, is completely faceless. But Fivehead over here likes to mess with you by first looking like a human. With a face, that is. Most encounters start with you encountering someone on the road, a merchant stall, or an inn. Usually at night, but mainly while you're alone. Now this random person would start to chat with you, with their backs turned to you. Truly, an introvert's worst nightmare. But as you talk, they suddenly turn to faceless you. As you see their blank vestige, you mainly would panic and run. And as you run into the safety of society, you cry for help, and with the first person you meet, you try and explain what happened. And as you mention the faceless creature you encountered, the man you're talking to would turn to you and say, "Did he look like this?" And then they swipe away their face. Now you see, there are many interpretations to the story. My favorites are the one where the protagonist's family reveals themselves to be Nopuras, but it's not really explained whether their family was turned into Nopura, but most stories just usually explain it by saying that Nopuras haunt in packs. What would you even call that? A face-off of Nopura? Ooh, double entendre. Either way, it's a really scary monster that's shown the creativity of Japan's ghosts. And now finally, my all-time favorite yokai that encompasses everything we've talked about, with it being wondrous, beautiful, terrifying, and the most dangerous. The Hayaki Yagayo. Now the direct translation is the Night Parade of 100 Demons. Jujutsu Kaisen fans are going crazy right now. Now, it's exactly what it sounds like, but it isn't. And that's because the English translation is a little bit of a lie. And this little guy. No, wait, I already did that joke. This guy, the Narahion, is said to be the commander of all yokai. He also has a similar effect on regular people. Now, if you're aware of the SCP universe, more so SCP-2852, or Cousin Johnny, the Narahion works similarly, but instead of becoming your cousin, he becomes the head of any household he enters. And he usually ransacks your goods, usually food and drink. But because he's said to be the commander of all yokai, every year, in the summer nights, he commands a festival throughout all the streets of Japan, and cities, usually accompanied by 2 yokai. The Otoroshi, devourer of the wicked, and the Nozuchi, the trembling harbinger. Now, before you get your party on and dance with demons, unless you're protected by a powerful scroll or spell, it's said that any who see the parade are to be spirited away or just die. The Haki Yagyo is so dangerous that even hearing the parade music, you have to just chant a spell, just to stay safe. But overall, it's hands down my favorite yokai. It's also in one of my favorite games, Ghostwire Tokyo. And so that's really about it. I just really wanted to make this a short little Halloween special. It's just something to establish that I can post monthly, even though this is definitely not going to be posted on the 1st of October like my last video. But it still was just fun to make. And on top of that, I'm pretty confident that I can make something out of this. And if you think so too, consider liking and subscribing. And with that all being said, I guess until next time, good morning, good evening, and good night.